Hey everyone, so we're back. I know it's been quite a while since my last video, and I promise you the Strixhaven video is coming up. It's being worked on. It is just taking a little longer than I really thought it would, and honestly, if you've been a fan of this channel for any while, you know that kind of happens every time because I don't really know how to pace myself with videos since they're just spur of the moment analysis on Magic. So just to put something out there in the meantime, and I've honestly been wanting to do this video for a while, is I'm just going to show you my process over the last year of me going through Warhammer and painting Warhammer miniatures. I got introduced into Warhammer around August, I want to say August, either late July, early August of 2020, like right at the peak of the pandemic. And I needed something to do, and I think it was Pleasant Kenobi who first started doing Warhammer stuff on YouTube, and it piqued my interest a little bit, and I had never really looked into it all that much. And then I watched this, I think, 4-hour-long video, I'm going to link it because it's honestly great, that goes over each individual faction. And I came upon the Adepta Sororitas, or as they're more colloquially known as the Battle Sisters. They're the religious, hyper-imperialistic faction in Warhammer 40K. And I kind of love their aesthetic, their absurdist vehicles. When you look at them, they're just mechanized organs. But when I was thinking about how I would paint them, I was immediately connected to the Orzhova church from Ravnica. And that's kind of what we're going to display here today. I'm going to show you how I went across painting all of my miniatures and the ideas that kind of came along them. And along the way, I'm going to show you the design differences that kind of came about as I started experimenting with more paint styles, and kind of just to show a progression of my skills as a painter. So before we get to the actual miniatures, I kind of want to get across the overall aesthetic that I was going for. So I'm going to present you with these 4 cards that I pulled out of my Ravnica binder, just to kind of give you a gist of what I'm trying to get across. So here is, please focus, Night of the Last Breath. And what I noticed immediately from the Orzhova church is that they don't really have faces a lot of the time. And if you watch the art analysis video that I did on them, they don't tend to have faces on the lower tiered individuals. Usually the everyday squads or the street squads don't have faces. They're covered in their helmets. Only the higher tiered clerics or the higher tiered church members have the privilege of having a face when you really look at them, at least on a broad stroke. I know there's some exceptions in there. And their armor tends to be very gold. Originally, I thought that their armor was mainly black. I don't know why, but when I took a closer look on them, they're mainly gold. They're gold plates with usually either white or silver highlights and the occasional black undertones. So you can see it there. I think here's a cleric that you can see a little bit more clearly. I don't know if you noticed, but I do not have a script for this. We're kind of just going off the cuff with everything, but I think that works with this kind of art style. So I'm just kind of putting these up here, mainly as examples as to what I was going for. Here we have a much higher leveled cleric here. And here is where you're gonna notice when I get to the higher tiered miniatures, where I go off, they're actually mainly white. They're either mainly white or black in their overall color scheme with more gold highlights as you get through the armor. And I think we're just gonna finish it off with Fiddler's Pontiff, which, come on, focus, I think we're good. Yeah, with her, I think the most thing you can realize here is she doesn't have much gold in her actual outfit. It's mainly devolved to the halo around her head in the piece behind her, and the majority of her clothing is the black-white color identity of the faction itself. So I kind of just took that, and I remember when I first started picking out the colors, I just put pictures on my computer and tried to match them to the paint style that I went with. So we're going to go in order as to how I painted the miniatures themselves. So we're going to start with my first miniature, which was this girl right here. So with her, I kind of went with more of a broad-stroked gold to everything. I kept her gloves black, even though they're not gloves, they're actually part of the armor, but I just decided to make them gloves for the aesthetic purposes. Made the overall cloth on the bottom black, and made her cape fully black. The inners, like the joint pieces of her armor, are black, and then everything else is gold. If you look even closer, everything is gold except for the outer edges, which I decided to paint a silvery color. And this is the color palette that I went with for the entire Battle Sister squad that I did first. This is around August of last year that I did this. And if you can really obviously tell, I don't know how to do faces. I've gotten a little better at them, but I do not have the still hands or the skill yet to paint faces that small. Hopefully it gets better as I go along over the next couple years as I paint more miniatures, but as of now, they need work. So I'm just going to quickly just pan out some couple examples that I did from this piece. I did some with faces and some with helmets, because I just wanted to stress it out a little bit. I mean, I just wanted to test it out a little bit, sorry about that. But yeah, as you can see, the eyes and the lips, they're not really all that great. So I think now I'm just going to pass through them, put the music on, and hopefully you enjoy them. So here I want to talk about how I went about picking the gun color. Because originally, if you look at the Orzhov, you're going to know they don't have guns. They usually just have spears or knives or blades or axes. So a gun doesn't really work. I can't really make the gold silver or plated because it kind of blends into here. So I decided to kind of just go with the main color of white. Because at this stage of the design work, there's no actual white on the miniatures themselves. It's mainly just the gold, with the occasional color splashes in the detail work and the small little insignias that I have here. So I just went with a flat white over everything, and if you've painted miniatures before, you will know that white is incredibly hard to paint with. This is a royal pain in the ass. At this point, I was using mainly just army painter paints, because they were really the only things that I could afford and find in my LGS. They were either Citadel or army painters, and I honestly hate Citadel paints when it comes to the way they're like produced and manufactured and all that. So here you can see the rest of them. We're just going to skip over a couple because it's usually just the same from now on. And we're going to get to the Simulacrum right here. This is honestly when I found out that washes, specifically black or flesh washes, do a wonder on the detail work. Because originally this isn't really all that well shaded. It's just the kind of like skull and bone colored here, the regular brown there, and then the gold and everything else. But it's the wash that actually makes all of these tiny little details kind of stand out a little bit. I was actually really proud of this piece when I finished it. I showed it off to everybody who would listen, to be honest. And for a while, this one piece here was my proudest piece. As you can tell so far, the bases right now, I didn't really put that much importance to them because I was kind of too excited and wanted to paint the miniatures. I just did random gray swatches here to display the kind of the street of a city all that much. But yeah, that was my proudest piece for a while. And you kind of look at all of the, let me just pull them over here. This is the Battle Sister Squad over there. Full 11 models from the original box. And then for the Sister Superior, it was, come on, focus. It's her. She was the one that I put the most effort painting because she was actually the second model that I painted. This one came second. The test one that I showed first was the first one where I just wanted to see if it would work. And then this was the first thing that I painted. At this point, I wasn't really paying attention to the actual rules or what I should have her equipped with, because I didn't really expect to build a full 2,000 points of this army. I was mainly looking at this hobby as an art expressionist kind of point. I wasn't really looking at building a full 2,000 points. And even now I don't have 2,000 yet. I think I might have like 1,000 or 1,200 so far what I have. But that's what it's looking at so far. And after I painted the Battle Sister Squad, I wanted to have another Sister Superior, because I have her so far. And that's not her original base. I actually rebased her after a while with this, come on. I rebased her with this pre-sculpted base that I found on my LGS, which I actually bought a bulk of them for a lot of my main pieces. I wanted another Sister Superior, but I didn't really want to put more money into either another Battle Sisters box, and I definitely did not want to build an authentic Canoness, because the Canoness is, I think it's like $25 for one model, and I just think that's honestly a bit absurd. I don't like the Warhammer single piece model sets because I don't think they're worth their value for a lot of them. Like the big pieces like the Demon Lords or the tanks or the large town mechs, they make sense. It's a lot of plastic. But when it comes to like the Canoness model or the Hospitalier model, I don't think they're really worth their price. So I wanted to kit bash them. So what I did is I went to my LGS, and my LGS has this thing where they have a wall of used Warhammer models that you can buy pre-made. A lot of them are already painted, some of them are gray. If I find some pictures on my phone, I'll put them up on screen. But they're pretty cheap. They're like $1, sometimes $2 for like a basic unit, and then some of the more detailed models are like $4 or $5 a model, which isn't really that bad considering how expensive like a full Canon S would be, or like a box of like Primaris Space Marines. So what I did is I found this Space Marine model. I don't know what it is because I don't really know my Space Marines. I took his head off, I took his gun off, and I replaced everything with a Battle Sisters head, because to all of you out there who have never built Battle Sisters, for some strange reason you get a ridiculous amount of heads. Like I have maybe like 60 heads just left over from all the parts that I built, and I've only built like 4 boxes. They just come with like 30 heads each, and I don't really know why. But anyway, here was my first experience kit bashing, and I was pretty proud of it. It's like, its proportions are a little off to the rest of the army, but I just wanted a way to signify that this was indeed a Canon S. And I did it mainly with not only the base, but mainly just the armor, and I gave her a little cherub in the back. I don't think it has any actual rules value. It's not focusing. There we go. It doesn't really have any rules value. It's kind of just there because I thought it would look cool. But right now, you can kind of see that I don't really know how to thin my paints yet. At this point, you could still see globs of paint, usually like right here. You can see the globs of paint mainly on the little halo and the cherub. And the gun. The gun's right here at this point in the timeline. We're looking at like October, November of 2020, and you could see there is really no detail work done on any of the guns or anything really. A lot of the detail is reserved for just the outer spritz of gold and the little red dots here, but other than that, it's pretty bad when you look at it up close. From here, I wanted to make another Canon S, and I went into this one. The same overall design philosophy of just taking a Primaris Space Marine, ripping its heads off and just replacing it with one of the Battle Sisters heads. But here I actually sculpted this base out of green stuff. It's corkboard covered in green stuff, and I just try to sculpt a little bit of like ground coming off to see her flying out. And instead of giving her wings, I just gave her a little cherub. I don't know if you want to flavor that the cherub is carrying her, or that she's just jumping off, but I just did this. I managed to break off one of the arms in the Space Marine, cut off the hand, replace the gun with a Battle Sisters gun, and the backpack I managed to replace it. She didn't get a halo, but I think this one was a little bit better. I was getting more comfortable doing the kit bashing process. That's my Canon S. From here, I wanted to build a Celestine. But I don't actually like the Celestine model all that well. Mainly on the price point, and I also didn't feel like it didn't display enough power as I wanted to display on a Celestine model. So I instead tried to find a replacement piece, kind of like a substitute model online. And I found this substitute model from a website whose name I forgot, that I will put on screen because I completely forgot about them. Right here. This model blew my mind when I found it online. I bought it myself for Christmas, along with a bunch of other models. And this one is when the biggest shift in the color palette that I ended up going with happened. Here, if you notice, there's not a lot of gold on her, and that's because I referenced this color palette specifically to the card Seraph of the Scales. I don't have it out right now because I think my only copy is in a Jumpstart cube that I have right now, and I don't want to fish through a bunch of packs to get it out. I'll just put it on screen. But I wanted to match the white of her wings, the gold of the trim on top with black, and what you don't notice on Seraph of the Scales unless you look at it really close, her chest region, like the chest of her model and of the painting, it's split down in half, with the left side of her body being white and the right side of her body being black. And it was a symbolic gesture in the original painting to display just the balance of the angel being like the Seraph of the Scales and just being kind of mechanically the center point between white and black. So here I actually loved the way that this looked, the differentiation between the all gold, the difference between the all gold trim that I used to have and now having this underlayer of white and black, and then putting the gold over it actually gave the model a bit of depth. The face is a little better, though that's mainly due to the wash and the fact that her eyes are white with no pupil. The base of this model is beautiful, by the way. The roses, the cutoff, everything. I try to keep the color of the ground and the model mainly just as city-like color as I can. But not only did this model change the way that I did the undertones of the models, but it also changed how I did their capes. I followed the same pattern. Instead of making the capes all black, I split them down the middle with their left side of the body white and the right side of the body black, and putting a gold trim on the bottom of the cape here. And as you're going to see moving forward, all of my battle sisters will have that gold trim in the bottom. From here on, I wanted to do a personalized Kit Bash battle sister, and I wanted to do something a little more unique. I wanted to have a battle sister that nobody else had, with an idea that nobody else really thought of before. And I looked online, tried to find anything similar to this, and I couldn't find anything, so I kind of just went with it. It took a lot of work, and honestly, a lot more work than it looks, but I decided to do a converted Tau. The story behind this miniature is that she is a Tau soldier, who after being defeated in battle, became a member of the Adepta Sororitas. She took upon the religion and became a soldier with them. She is much smaller than the other ones, being a Tau, so I gave her the flavor of being able to dual-wield guns and be very nimble, being running around the battlefield and jumping around. Again, this doesn't really do anything for the rules of the game. I've only ever played one game of Kill Team. I've never actually played a full Warhammer game, so a lot of these models, they're not legal for play, specifically the Celestine over there. But again, I mainly did these for the artistic expression reason of this. And here is when I really started to flex my kit bashing muscles a little bit. There we go. I gave her this little scenery of this demon that I found in my LGS, and I kind of just broke it apart, ripped it up, and made it so that as she just defeated this demon, specifically not by shooting it, but by making a bunch of rocks fall over him and crush his head. I did that specifically to display that she isn't so much powerful as she is just nimble and able to defeat her opponents without the use of guns, or without, the sheer power of the citrus battles. And I would just want to point out here is where my skills in little details started to point out a little bit more. The guns are still the generic white overall, but I think my overall paint thinning and detail work is a little better, specifically on the little gun satchels and on the trim of the cape. Oh, wait. Nope, I did this one before the Celestine then, because the cape is still all black, but whatever. They were roughly around the same time. So overall, really proud of this piece. After this is Christmas happened. So now we're looking at ending of December, beginning of January. And I got myself a Sisters Repentia squad and a... forgot what they're called, the ones with the chainsaws, the the one, I'm just gonna put them on screen. I got a box of those, and I did their squad leaders, and I wanted to do as much kid bashing as I can, so I did this with her. There's nothing really all that special about her. She's supposed to be the Repentia superior. As you can see, the face started getting a little more detail work, and it started looking a little better. I started working more with highlights and different skin tones. But here, I think I focused mainly on the small details on the individual pieces. The cape is still the overall black, because I didn't want to give her the white-black trim near the bottom. Not exactly sure why, but here is not only when my detail work started to shine a little bit better, but where I started changing the design of the guns. Instead of doing all white now, I did the undercoat of the gun in purple, a royal purple that would be fitting of a church like that, and did the outer pieces white. This is because I wanted the gun to stand out a little bit more, and because I honestly got really tired of painting white after I painted my Tau kill team. And I left the gold more to a highlight color on the guns themselves, and did silver for the gun barrel. And as for her gun, I did more of a wooden staff with a power hammer on the top. This used to have a little spike here, but it fell off. But at that point, this piece became my proudest piece out of all the ones that I built. This toppled the Celestia that I painted a little while ago. Besides her, I painted this one. Here is another model where I wanted to display more of a story. I wanted to display a moment of action between a sister superior. I wanted to give her the flavor of being an older veteran of the Adepta Sororitas, henceforth giving her the eye patch. I just gave her a more powerful look. I tried painting her to look a little older, but honestly it just looked a little goofy and it was too late to fix it. And if you're an artist or you've done any kind of artistic work, you know there's a point where if you want, even though you want to keep working on something, you kind of just have to admit that you need to stop and that the work is done. And that was definitely the point that I got in this piece right now. She actually just killed a Tau soldier. That is her power blade? Power saw? I forget what they're called. Chainsword. That's her chainsword and the cut off arm of a Tau soldier reaching for its gun. The gun isn't really cut. It's just, I did kind of a diorama piece here where the gun is supposed to like extend out of here, but the base kind of covers it all. Yeah, this is the piece so far right now. The detail work is starting to get a little better. The gun looks a little better. Kind of just showing my improvement as I went along the years. This one I still didn't like as much as the other one. But now, we're going to get into my wildest idea yet. At this point, I have built every model that is technically legal in a kill team. My kill team was done as of the point that I was building that. But then I got this wild idea. These looked like Orzhov members of the church. They looked like Orzhov soldiers. But they were still just Adepta Sororitas. There wasn't anything, I don't want to say specifically Ravnican about them. They were just imperialistic, church-led battlewomen, which really, yes, they're Orzhov, but they're mainly just Warhammer. So how do I cross over from purely Warhammer into a distinctly Orzhov mechanic? And that is when I started wanting to build the flying squads, the girls with the jetpacks, with the power wings. But I knew I needed to do something extra. I couldn't just paint them again. So what I did is, I was looking through my LGS, and I was kind of just looking through all the random boxes, or trying to get some sort of inspirational idea. And then I find these ghosts. This box of ghosts that was like, easy to build, $15 boxes with 3 ghosts each. And then I got the wild idea. I could pair these ghosts up with each of the Flying Sisters, kind of mixing the flavor of the Orzhov, not only controlling ghosts, but oftentimes having ghosts be their servants, due to them being contractually obligated to serve the Orzhov church. So how do you think I mix these two together? So I did this. I took each flying unit and paired it with one of those ghosts, and created a more narrative-driven, moment-driven composition to how the model is painted. I took the ghost form and put each ghost underneath the soldier. I sanded down and cut the bases of the flying units to have them try to hide this as much as possible, and painted them individually. I painted them separately and painted the ghost and the base separately, and then glued them together afterwards so as to not get paint on the staff. But this right here, I think, is my proudest idea when it comes to Warhammer miniature painting. And it's the latest thing I've painted ever, and the latest thing I've built so far. Now here, I think, is where you can actually see the culmination of, at this point, like 7 or 8 months of working on these miniatures. You can see the detail work. I redid the swords to have not only a wooden base, but the golden handle and a purple thread down the middle, just to give it a little contrast on the blade. I introduced the rosary beads to be red and kind of added more highlights to the individual. No, I don't know if you can see from this angle. Added highlights to the individual little pouches that she carries around. And I actually copied the same color dynamic, the color palette, from the Seraph of the Scales that I did over here. I think, yeah, right here. I kept the same white and gold on the top with the white wings on the bottom. And I kept the little split white down the middle part. And not only did I do that, but I actually changed the way that I did the armor plating. If you look here, underneath this leather, it's actually also split off white, the way that the Seraph of the Scale was originally painted. And the cape is now lined with gold trim on the sides, with the split down the middle there. And I'm just going to show you in terms of like how I went across doing these, because finding the right positioning on these models to... Oh, Yeah, they fall a lot. That's the only problem with them. Also, again, these are not legal. I don't think they're legal in any capacity. But just finding the way to make these things look not only good, but also so that you could stare right at them. Like, you have to look at these on one angle and you actually see both of them staring back at you. I tried to replicate that as much as I could with each individual model. So, like, we'll take a look at this one. If you position them like so, it's close enough where they're both looking at you, but this one was a little split off. I had to kind of keep the whole thing up here and make it so that it goes behind the ghost, but overall, very proud of this one. Now, this pair right here is the one I think out of all of them that legitimately looks like a duo. This looks like a team ready to fight you. Mainly from their positioning, the way they're angled, and the way they look that they're both aiming right straight at you. Oh, no, focus again, please. Yeah. Very proud of this one. But now, we're going to get to what I consider the best model that I have ever painted. And if you have a Seraph squad, you know which one I'm talking about. And it's this majesty right here. Look at that. Painting that banner had to be one of the biggest struggles ever. Trying to get that gold trim to look good and also not blend into the white was honestly so time consuming. It hurt my wrist, it hurt my eyes. But my god, am I so proud of the final product on this one. Just look at it. Everything is detailed. Not perfectly, but it's detailed. I think the best that I physically could at that point in time. The ghost, to get the ghost the way they looked, it was such a weird mixture of blue wash with this spectral paint that I found. Yeah, everything about this piece I love. I am so happy with everything that I did with this specific piece. Yeah, even got the little things up here painted correctly. Yeah, but anyway, that right there are my Sister Superiors. I'm actually just gonna... There you go. You got my Battle Sisters all right there. So that is all of them right then and there. I am glad you spent this little time with me just showing off my little art pieces. So, do you think I actually got the flavor and the color aesthetics of the Orzhov Church in my army? Or are there any particular models or ideas that you're also looking forward to? Let me know in the comments below. And don't worry, the next video is being worked on. But I just wanted to give you... Oh, shit. But I just wanted to give you guys this little quick video. Not really edited, kind of just off the cuff kind of thing. And let me know what you think. And if you play Warhammer, let me know about your favorite Warhammer thing. Or if you play any other tabletop games, let me know. And if you have any other ideas as to how I can get a magic-themed Warhammer miniature color scheme, also let me know on that, because I've been looking for new ideas for models to buy. Well, anyway, goodbye for now.